If you are dealing with a narcissist, the first and most important thing you must understand is that they are not interacting with you in the same way you are interacting with them. You are entering the relationship with the belief that connections between people are built on respect, fairness, honesty, and shared understanding. You believe that communication exists to create clarity, that effort should be mutual, and that emotional exchange should be balanced. This belief is natural because it is how healthy human relationships function. It is the framework that allows trust, safety, and emotional connection to grow. The narcissist does not operate from this framework. They are not guided by the same assumptions or values. They are not focused on understanding you, meeting you halfway, or building something shared. Their attention is directed elsewhere. Their focus is on power, control, advantage, validation. They see relationships not as partnerships, but as arenas where influence is gained or lost. Because of this difference, many people find themselves confused. They feel as though they are speaking the same language, yet nothing is being understood. They try harder, explain more clearly, and offer more patience, believing that effort will eventually lead to connection. What they do not realize is that they are trying to solve a problem that does not exist in the narcissist's mind. The narcissist is not failing to understand. They are choosing control over connection. For a narcissist, nearly every interaction serves a purpose. That purpose is to secure dominance, attention, or validation. Sometimes it is obvious, other times it is subtle, but it is always present. If gaining control requires distorting facts, they will distort facts. If it requires reshaping your memory, they will reshape it. If it requires slowly lowering your confidence so you question yourself instead of them, they will do that patiently and without remorse. What makes this especially damaging is that narcissists often appear confident, convincing, and even charming. They can speak with certainty. They can sound logical. They can seem emotionally aware when it benefits them. This makes it difficult to recognize what is happening, especially for people who are empathetic, reflective, and willing to self-examine. The narcissist uses these qualities against you. Many people believe that kindness will eventually soften the narcissist. They believe that patience will lead to understanding. They believe that if they stay calm, reasonable, and loving long enough, the narcissist will finally see the truth and change. This belief is deeply human, but it is also deeply dangerous when applied to narcissistic dynamics. A narcissist does not change because someone explains something clearly. They do not shift behavior because someone expressed pain honestly. They do not grow through emotional insight in the way healthy people do. They change only when their access to control is threatened. They respond to consequences, not conversations. When this reality is ignored, the result is a cycle of confusion, exhaustion, self-doubt, and emotional depletion. Recognizing narcissistic behavior is not about blaming or labeling. It is about observing reality without denial. One of the first skills you must develop is learning to watch behavior instead of listening to words. Narcissists are skilled communicators when it serves them. They know how to apologize convincingly without changing anything. They know how to promise growth without taking responsibility. They know how to present themselves as victims when accountability approaches. Words can be rehearsed. Patterns cannot. When behavior repeats, it reveals intention. If someone repeatedly lies, dismisses your feelings, shifts blame, or violates boundaries, that pattern is the truth. It does not matter how heartfelt the apology sounds afterward. Change is visible. It does not need to be argued for. One of the most destabilizing tactics narcissists use is the slow erosion of your sense of reality. They deny things they clearly said. They minimize experiences you clearly remember. They question your emotional responses until you begin questioning yourself. Over time, this creates confusion. You may find yourself apologizing when you are not sure why. You may feel guilty without knowing what you did wrong. This is not accidental. It is a deliberate strategy to gain psychological advantage. When you argue with a narcissist, you are not debating facts. You are participating in a power struggle. The more you explain, defend, and justify, the more you reinforce their position as judge and authority. The moment you start trying to prove your reality, the dynamic has already shifted in their favor. Another tactic that keeps people trapped is unpredictability. Narcissists often alternate between affection and cruelty. One moment they are warm, attentive, and validating. The next moment, they are distant, dismissive, or harsh. This inconsistency creates emotional attachment. Your nervous system begins to chase relief. You start hoping that if you do the right thing, the kindness will return. This is not love, it is conditioning. The brain responds more strongly to unpredictable rewards than consistent ones. This is the same mechanism behind addiction. The rare moments of warmth keep you invested, even when the overall experience is painful. The narcissist does not need to be kind often. They only need to be kind enough to keep you hoping. Projection is another powerful tool they rely on. They accuse you of behaviors they are engaging in themselves. If they are dishonest, they accuse you of lying. If they are manipulative, they accuse you of manipulation. This creates confusion and shifts attention away from their actions. It also forces you into defense mode, which keeps you emotionally engaged and distracted. Understanding these patterns is not about becoming cynical or mistrustful of everyone. It is about clarity. It is about learning to see dynamics as they are rather than as you wish them to be. When you see clearly, you stop participating unconsciously. When you stop participating, the narcissist loses leverage. One of the most damaging habits people develop in narcissistic relationships is seeking approval. This often happens quietly and slowly. You adjust your tone, you soften your words, you suppress your needs, you become hyper-aware of their moods. You hope that if you are careful enough, the relationship will stabilize. This happens because humans are wired for reciprocity. When we give effort, we expect acknowledgement. When we show care, we expect care in return. With a narcissist, this expectation becomes a trap. They do not see your effort as something to honor. They see it as confirmation of control. Each time you alter yourself to avoid their disapproval, you reinforce their power. Each time you wait for validation, you place your self-worth in their hands. And if you believe that there is a perfect way to explain yourself that will finally make them understand, you exhaust yourself chasing something that does not exist. The stand-up. R&D will always move. The rules will always change. This is not because you are failing. It is because success was never the goal. Control was. This leads to one of the most important realizations you can have. This dynamic is not happening because you are inadequate. It is happening because the narcissist's sense of self is unstable. Their identity depends on superiority. Accountability threatens that identity. Mutual respect threatens control, so they dominate, diminish, and manipulate, not because you deserve it, but because they cannot tolerate equality. Once this becomes clear, your role changes. You stop trying to fix them. You stop trying to earn respect. You begin creating distance, emotional distance, mental distance, sometimes physical distance, and this process begins with one essential decision. You stop seeking their approval. This does not mean becoming cruel or detached from your humanity. It means stepping out of the psychological trap. In practical terms, it means you stop explaining yourself to someone who does not listen to understand. You stop defending your emotions. You stop justifying your boundaries. A narcissist thrives on engagement. Arguments are fuel. The more emotional energy you invest, the more power they gain. When you stop engaging, the dynamic shifts. If they misinterpret you, let them. If they distort your words, allow it. Their perception of you is not your responsibility to manage. Another critical step is releasing the need for closure. Humans crave resolution. We want acknowledgement. We want apologies. We want fairness. In narcissistic relationships, closure rarely comes from the other person. Waiting for it keeps you trapped. Closure is not something the narcissist gives. Closure is something you choose. It is the decision to stop waiting for recognition that may never come. It is the decision to accept that your healing due, and not depend on their awareness. Another mistake many people make is believing that fairness will protect them. They believe that being calm, rational, and reasonable will lead to mutual understanding. A narcissist does not value fairness, they value advantage. Your patience is interpreted as access. Your empathy is interpreted as vulnerability. Breaking the cycle requires emotional detachment. This does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means choosing not to let your emotions be manipulated. It means recognizing provocation and refusing automatic reaction. This is difficult. It feels unnatural. Staying calm while being falsely accused feels wrong. Allowing misrepresentation feels unjust. But each time you refuse to engage, you weaken their grip. A narcissist cannot control someone they cannot provoke. Boundaries are essential, but boundaries without enforcement are meaningless. Saying you will not tolerate something means nothing if behavior does not change. Boundaries are not statements. They are actions. If you say you will leave, you must leave. If you say you will disengage, you must disengage. When boundaries are enforced, narcissists often escalate. They guilt. They accuse. They play the victim. This escalation is not failure. It is confirmation that control is slipping. Many people give in during this phase because the pressure increases. Consistency is what breaks the cycle. Boundaries are not about controlling the narcissist. They are about protecting yourself. They define what you allow in your life. When enforced consistently, the narcissist's influence fades. One of the hardest truths to accept is that narcissists rarely provide closure. They do not reflect the way healthy people do. Their priority is not truth, it is control. If rewriting the past preserves power, they will do it. You can spend years hoping they will change, or you can desi. Your healing does not depend on them. Closure is a choice. Letting go is painful because it requires accepting an ending you did not want. But freedom begins where waiting ends. When you stop seeking validation, you reclaim your power. Their greatest weapon is your need for resolution. Remove that, and they have nothing. Healing is not about forcing them to understand. It is about understanding clearly yourself. Their lack of accountability is not your failure. It is theirs. And when you finally let go, the weight lifts, not because the harm disappears, but because it no longer defines you. The greatest victory is not revenge. It is freedom. It is building a life so stable, meaningful, and grounded that they fade into memory, a lesson learned, a chapter closed. And that is real closure. When you begin to emotionally detach from a narcissist, one of the first things you may notice is discomfort. This discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are doing something unfamiliar. For a long time, your emotional system may have been trained to respond, to explain, to fix, and to smooth things over. Detachment feels unnatural because engagement became a survival strategy. You learned, often without realizing it, that staying alert, responsive, and emotionally available reduced conflict, even if it never truly solved it. A narcissist benefits from this conditioning. They benefit when you feel responsible for the emotional climate. They benefit when you believe it is your job to clarify misunderstandings, to calm tensions, and to repair damage they caused. Over time, this responsibility can feel heavy. You may feel tired in ways that sleep does not fix. You may feel mentally foggy, emotionally numb, or disconnected from your own needs. This is not weakness. It is the cost of prolonged emotional strain. As you start pulling back, the narcissist may sense the shift even before you say anything. They are highly sensitive to changes in attention and availability. They notice when you respond less quickly, when your tone becomes neutral, when your emotional energy is no longer freely offered. This loss of access often triggers a reaction. That reaction may look like sudden kindness. They may become more attentive, more affectionate, more cooperative. This is not growth. It is a tactic to regain control. They are testing to see if the old patterns still work. If you respond by re-engaging emotionally, the cycle resets. If you stay steady, the tactic often changes. When kindness does not pull you back in, they may escalate. Accusations may increase. Guilt may be applied more heavily. They may accuse you of being cold, selfish, uncaring, or change for the worse. They may claim you are abandoning them or punishing them. These reactions are not about your behavior. They are about their loss of control. This stage is difficult because it often triggers old conditioning. You may feel an urge to explain yourself, to reassure them, or to soften the situation. You may feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. You may wonder if you are being unfair. This internal conflict is one of the strongest tools narcissists rely on. They depend on your conscience to do the work they refuse to do. It is important to understand that guilt does not always mean wrongdoing. Guilt often appears when you stop doing what benefits someone else at your own expense. When you begin protecting your energy. People who benefited from your self-neglect may react strongly. That reaction does not make your boundary wrong. As you continue detaching, you may notice something else happening internally. Your thoughts become clearer. You may start remembering events more accurately. You may notice patterns that once felt confusing now feel obvious. This clarity can be unsettling. It may bring anger, grief, or sadness. These emotions are part of processing reality without distortion. Grief is especially common. You may grieve the relationship you hoped for, the version of the person you believed in, or the time and energy you invested. This grief does not mean you made a mistake by caring. It means you are human. Caring deeply does not become a flaw simply because someone exploited it. Another difficult realization may surface during this stage. You may recognize that no amount of effort on your part could have changed the outcome. This realization can feel painful because it removes the illusion of control. But it is also freeing. When you accept that you were never responsible for fixing them, you can finally stop trying. The narcissist may attempt to pull you back by rewriting the past. They may deny harmful behavior or minimize it. They may claim you are remembering things wrong or exaggerating. They may insist that things were never that bad. This rewriting serves a purpose. It protects their image and destabilizes your confidence. It is not your job to convince them of the truth. Truth does not require permission to exist. The more you try to make them acknowledge reality, the more you remain emotionally engaged. Detachment means allowing them to believe whatever they need to believe while you hold on to what you know. This is where many people struggle. Letting go of the need to be understood feels deeply uncomfortable. Humans are social beings. We want to be seen accurately. We want our experiences to be validated. But with a narcissist, understanding is not the goal. Control is. Seeking validation from someone who benefits from misunderstanding you keeps you trapped. As detachment deepens, you may notice a shift in your nervous system. You may feel calmer. You may feel less reactive. You may feel more grounded. At first, this calm can feel strange, even empty. That emptiness is not loss. It is space. Space that was previously occupied by constant monitoring, anticipation, and emotional labor. In this space, you may begin reconnecting with yourself. You may notice preferences you suppressed, needs you ignored, boundaries you never felt allowed to have. This reconnection can feel empowering and frightening at the same time. When you reclaim your inner authority, you also accept responsibility for protecting it. This responsibility includes making difficult choices. Sometimes detachment alone is not enough. In some situations, reducing contact or ending contact entirely becomes necessary. This decision is not about punishment. It is about safety and stability. When interaction consistently leads to harm, distance becomes an act of self-respect. If you choose to reduce or end contact, the narcissist may respond with anger, despair, or manipulation. They may attempt to smear your reputation. They may tell others distorted stories. They may position themselves as the victim. This behavior is painful, but it is also predictable. It does not define you. Trying to defend yourself to everyone is another trap. You do not need to explain your experience to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Those who know you will see consistency in your behavior over time. Those who do not are not your responsibility. As you continue healing, it becomes important to rebuild trust in yourself. Narcissistic dynamics often damage self-trust. You may question your judgment, your perceptions, and your decisions. Rebuilding this trust takes time and patience. It begins with listening to yourself again. Start paying attention to how situations make you feel. Not how they look, not how they sound, but how they feel in your body. Tension, anxiety, and confusion are signals. They are not flaws, they are information. Healthy relationships feel steady, not chaotic, safe, not confusing, supportive, not draining. You may also notice a tendency to over-explain in other relationships. This is a learned behavior. It developed as a response to constant misinterpretation. Over time, as you experience healthier dynamics, this urge will fade. You will learn that not every feeling needs justification. Another important part of healing is redefining what love means to you. Narcissistic relationships often distort love into something conditional, unpredictable, and painful. Healing requires separating love from anxiety. Love does not require constant vigilance. It does not demand self-erasure. It does not punish honesty. As you internalize this, your standards may change. You may become less tolerant of disrespect. You may walk away sooner from situations that feel wrong. This is not hardness, it is wisdom. The narcissist may still attempt to re-enter your life later. This often happens when they sense you are stable or successful. They may appear changed, they may speak differently, they may reference growth or insight. Remember that change is shown through consistent behavior over time, not words delivered at the right moment. You are not obligated to reopen doors you worked hard to close. Protecting your peace is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. As healing continues, something important happens. The emotional charge associated with the narcissist begins to fade. Thoughts of them carry less intensity. Triggers lose strength. Memories become less intrusive. This does not mean what happened no longer mattered. It means it no longer controls you. This is when many people realize that closure was never about the other person. It was about regaining internal balance. Closure happens when your nervous system no longer waits for their response. When your sense of worth is no longer tied to their recognition. The paradox is that the less you need acknowledgement, the freer you become. Power returns when you stop trying to extract something from someone who never intended to give it. Healing is not linear. Some days will feel strong, others may feel fragile. This does not mean you are going backward. It means you are processing. Each layer of understanding brings a different emotion. Allow them without judgment. Over time, you may look back and feel gratitude for your awareness. Not for the pain, but for the growth. You may see how deeply you are capable of empathy, resilience, and self-reflection. These qualities were never weaknesses. They were misused by the wrong person. The greatest shift happens when you stop defining yourself through the lens of that relationship. You are no longer someone who was wronged. You are someone who learned, adapted, and chose themselves. This is where real freedom begins. Not in proving anything, not in being believed by everyone, but in living fully without the weight of manipulation. The narcissist loses power when you stop reacting. They lose relevance when you stop explaining. They lose control when you stop needing their version of reality. What remains is you, clearer, stronger, more grounded, and that is the outcome they never wanted, but the one you always deserved.